friends, it's Caroline. I just wanted to take a little bit of time to talk about the British Royals because I do see an awful lot going on there and people are kind of confused or unhappy about it. They don't see King Charles out and about, and they kind of panic and they know he's ill and did he die, etc. And then they don't see Princess Kate out there. And then there's all this speculation until she puts out a video saying that she's ill. I do feel that that family is in crisis and that they're in a moment of huge upheaval. And that's to be understood. Absolutely, that's to be expected and understood because it's a time when not only are you and I being powerfully affected by all this light pouring onto the planet and finding that we can't cover anything up anymore. Every family, every person, every human being or otherwise on this earth is being affected by that light. We are on the 5D Earth timeline now. Absolutely, we're in the fifth dimension. I know it doesn't look that way. The fifth dimension can contain elements of the third dimension. That's not unusual, just as it can contain elements of the sixth and seventh dimension. And some days that's happening. We are releasing the third dimension, and so is the royal family. And you'll notice that things cannot be covered up anymore. And I feel that that is such a really beautiful, positive forward movement. What's difficult is that when we hear about, say, as we did a few years back, Prince Andrew being friends with Jeffrey Epstein, and wondering what that was up to and seeing the picture of him with a young girl who was not yet of age in the Upper East Side. What happens when we see things like that and then when we realize, say, that some of the royal family, maybe they drink too much, as Princess Margaret may well have died of alcoholism as much as anything else. And I'm not trying to cast aspersions here. I'm just saying that our subconscious will kind of react like, oh, wait a minute, what are you talking about? Or, well, that's just one bad apple. That's just one person who was very troubled or who got into things that they shouldn't have gotten into. But overall, I really love the royals and I love following them and what they're doing, and I want everything to stay the same. And this is because the subconscious always resists change unless it can pretty much ascertain that that change is going to be helpful and positive. It's going to look for situations that hold up and support what you and I have always believed to be true or real. And it's going to rebel and question what doesn't seem to be true because it hasn't gone that way before. And I've seen people, as I will say something in conversation, I've heard people say, well, I've never heard that before. I've never heard that Princess Diana did this or that, or she was, had this job amongst the royals or carried on this role, etc. I think Princess Diana was a phenomenal human being, and maybe if she's alive still is. There are people who believe that those were three clones who died in the Paris tunnel in 1997. Wouldn't surprise me at all. She was apprised, she was warned ahead of time that they were going to try to kill her in a car crash. Let's keep in mind that these aren't just nice people who are living amidst all this pomp and glory, and they live in these huge stately homes, and they dress better and they drive better cars than anybody. They've got all this security protection around them and very important jobs and one title after another, etc., etc. These are very, very powerful people. They belong to the power structure that has run the planet for thousands of years, or else they wouldn't be in that position. And you notice that our prime ministers in this world, and including US presidents, the powerful world leaders are plucked from those families, from these powerful families who have run the world for thousands of years. And some refer to them as the 13 families. If you go to rainbowroundtable.net, for instance, my friends Rama and Tara run that website, and they have their BBS radio programs. I'm the one on the Thursdays, at least the third and fourth Thursdays of the month, and we will openly discuss things having to do with that power structure, so that when we hear news of something like Prince Andrew being involved with pedophiles, or we hear of Charles Spencer, Diana's brother, putting out this book about how he was predated upon, as were many boys, horribly abused, physically and sexually abused in this very upper crust school that he went to as a boy. We hear these things and we begin to realize this is just part of how that particular sector of society lives. I know that Prince Charles, now King Charles, was abused badly as a child, and please, not only in ways that are shown on Netflix series such as The Crown. It goes way beyond that. They also made opportunity in making that series to put Prince Harry in a very dark light. And I don't feel that that was necessary, and I feel that they did it for their own purposes. And he had his own Netflix series, he and his wife. And it's interesting because this is the era in which not only is the lid getting blown off so that you and I see into these powerful people's lives. Harvey Weinstein is another example of Hollywood elite, but we're seeing into their lives. We're seeing what gets exposed. We're seeing that they're not perfect, that they do predate upon innocent people. They do exploit, and they often have been exploited and abused themselves. And so they're in this bizarre, vicious cycle. Now, that cycle doesn't have to continue. I myself am a survivor of child sexual abuse. I have not put that upon anyone. It doesn't have to self-perpetuate at all, but people need help in order to get beyond it. And often in the powerful families, it's expected that you will become an abuser. It's expected that you will abuse substances, and it's expected that you will separate from conscience and from emotion. And that's how you stay on track as a very powerful person, to just rule without conscience and only thinking in terms of the acquisition of greater assets, whether it's real estate or money or gold or whatever it is, and only focus on the increasing power of the family you're in, and tipping the scales in favor of that family against the other 12 families, and just ignoring all ideas of fairness and decency and conscience anytime that seems to get in the way of the preferences of the power structure, the hierarchical rulers of that particular family structure. And of course, that's shifted with Elizabeth II leaving the earth, and now Charles stepping up to be king. It's shifted a bit, and yet there's so much that's shifting purely because of these astrological alignments and this powerful light pouring into the earth. Our sun is changing, and if you think that the sun shifting from a yellow dwarf to a white dwarf doesn't have any effect on this earth, doesn't touch us vibrationally, doesn't affect our consciences or consciousness, let me tell you, it has powerful effect. And you're seeing it, friend. You're absolutely watching it right now. I'm not going to comment on Princess Kate's illness. I think it's incredibly sad. I'm just going to say that it's a little unusual that a woman that young and healthy would be affected suddenly by a serious illness. And we just hold her in the light. She's got 3 young children. We just hold her in the light for her complete wellness. And Charles is not a young man, and it is very sad that he is ill as well. Again, hold all in that beautiful emerald green ray of Lord Raphael, Archangel Raphael, in the rose ray of Mary, Mother of Yeshua, in the white light of the Divine Feminine, which some call the white light of the Holy Spirit, the transmuting violet flame of Saint Germain. Hold all of them in that, because this is a moment of extreme shakeup. There's things going on you and I don't see, and yet we can sense and feel them. So when somebody like Prince Harry steps out of that royal circle, we can get angry at him, we can yell and stomp our feet and say, oh, he's caused so much pain to his family. Oh, he's so awful. He should be there. There's fewer royals to carry on the duties of supermarket openings or what have you. This is terrible. He should go back. You know, if somebody said to you or to me, you have to be an accountant. I don't care that you're an artist or a humanitarian. You have to be an accountant, and a highly corrupt one. And we don't care whether you like it or not. Let me tell you, if you've got anything like a shred of inner strength, you would stand up to that. And you would say, no, that's not who I am. That's not how I am. That's not how I'm going to live. Forget it. I choose my own life. He's his own man. He's not a coward. He's been to war twice. And he moved his beloved to another country and elsewhere, to Canada and then to the US. There were death threats involved, death threats against first his fiancée and then wife, Miss Markle. And I don't blame him at all. And I want to ask all of you men, if you heard and saw death threats being made against your beloved, your partner, your spouse, would you just sit there and shrug it off and do nothing and say, oh, well, I'm a royal. That happens. Is that what you would do? I'd be very interested. Please do write in the comments below if you would do absolutely nothing if your spouse or partner and or children were getting threatened. And I feel that he acted in conscience. His mother broke the mold. She also died, if you believe that that was her and not a clone, being chased by the paparazzi. If that were you and you were a 12-year-old boy when that happened, yes, you would be traumatized. Yes, it would mark you for life. And yes, it would at least partly determine a lot of the decisions you made afterwards. And all these people who say, oh, they're born into such privilege. He's such a brat. He's such a, so-and-so, to turn his back on that. He should be grateful. There's no great privilege in not being able to choose your life, in having to live with protocol that is actually damaging to you and your loved ones, and to leave your conscience behind and do as you're told purely because that's how it's always been done. And if you think they're holy, if you think they're angelic, the Windsors, go back a bit. Let's go back to the 1500s. Elizabeth I was queen. She discovered around the mid-1500s how incredibly lucrative the slave trade could be and started backing slavers in the mid-1500s, and they made tremendous money off of the slave trade. Going forward into, and they did this for quite a while, going forward in the 1800s, sale of opium to China. Tremendous income. Pulling resources, natural resources out of Africa, out of the African countries, out of India, out of the US, you name a continent, they've stolen resources out of it. They didn't automatically own those resources. You can call a country a colony. Does that mean you own it? No, that means you invaded. And I'm not just pointing a finger at the Brits. I also live in a powerful country that's done terrible things. I've lived in England a lot. My grandfather was English. I have great love for England. I've lived in Belfast as well. I've seen both sides. And it's not pretty. Colonization is not pretty. War is horrifying and has to be abolished on this planet. And the whole idea of let's launch war to let these people know who's in charge, or that this land is either ours or it's going to be ours, that day is past, friends. You know that. You know that intuitively. You see these college students getting arrested all over U.S. campuses for saying no to war, in other words, genocide in Palestine. And it's not because they're backing any terrorist group. It's because they're objecting to the inhumanity of killing people so you can grab their land. And the day of that is well over. But you see the old power structure digging its heels in and just wanting to stay in place. And it's absolutely brilliant to me to see people like Earl Spencer coming forward and just telling their story, and to see people like Prince Harry coming forward and telling his story and letting us know it hasn't been easy. It's not all glory. Just because I come from money and a grand house doesn't mean my life is wonderful. People can be abused in any circumstance, anywhere on this planet, and everybody's got their challenges, and everybody should have the right to choose their life. And so it's what I would wish for you and me and everybody, my friends, that we be able to choose our own life. And with the light pouring in from this sun right now, this wave of light moving through the universe, it's all about revolution. It's all about reestablishing the old order into the new order, and reforming and in fact dissolving the old order. And that's the way it's going. And that's why you see a lot of desperate moves on the part of the power structure to try to reestablish who they are. But it's never going to happen. It's never going to put in place that which they have lost. It's over for them. And they know that. They really know that. And I'm not saying, oh boy, revolution the working people have won, and these horrible old-fashioned upper class types and the elite, they're getting knocked off of their throne. I'm going to say that the light has won. And if everyone can come into the light, anyone of any background can step into the light in their consciousness and ask to know their higher self, ask to know their own soul strength, ask to know what their true life path is. This is a great moment. And I feel humanity in a way is asking to know what its true path is. And for that, we've got to let go of the old, friends. We absolutely have to let go of the old power structure and the old order of things. And yes, our subconscious is going to let out a scream and say, I don't like change. I'm here to protect you from change in case it's bad for us. That's going to happen. But it doesn't have to mean that we are in a place where we are slaves to the order of the past and where we cannot move forward because that's just too scary. And who wants change anyway? You do, or you would not have been born in this era. So I'm going to do a channeling on it. That'll be part 2 of this video. So look for that in a few days. But in the meantime, I hope that you will just open up your heart space a bit and allow people to have their lives, including their mistakes, allow people to have their choices, allow people to see in higher ways and to be shown to us in their true measure. And that includes the power structure in the US. I'm not just coming down on Great Britain or just the royals, what have you. This has to do with the power structure the world over. And yes, we are waking up here in the US. I don't know what it'll take to wake everybody up, but it is happening slowly but surely. So I send much love and speak soon. Namaste.